Hi, we're here today with the cast and crew from Singing in the Lifeboat. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you.
I am Grace Wijaya. I'm the writer and director of the film. And yeah, this is a piece from my graduation for my MFA program. So yeah, very exciting.
Hi everyone, I'm Priscilla. I'm currently based in Southwest London at the moment. I was very fortunate to play the role of Jin in The Singing of the Lifeboat. Um, yeah, I've been acting for the past 12 years. I'm British Korean, so I was born and raised in the UK. I had 7 years of acting training. That's where I also met the director Grace. And I flew to Pennsylvania to be part of this short film. Um, yeah, and I got to meet those great people.
Hey, I'm Yaari. It's great to be here. I was the producer and assistant director on the film. Mostly I did a lot of the pre-production work with Grace together, and then when we got onto set, I transitioned more into the role of the assistant director. I've been making films for about 5 years now. I write and direct and compose and sound mix my own stuff as well.
So I guess we'll start with you, Grace. What made you want to be a filmmaker? How did that come about?
I guess just from the love for storytelling that I have since I was young, and can't imagine doing anything else with my time. So this is the struggle that I'm choosing to take.
Okay. Priscilla, what made you want to be an actress?
Um, I very unexpectedly got into acting. I did singing before, and then my dad actually enrolled me into an acting program in South Korea, and I ended up auditioning, and that's when I got introduced to acting. And it felt like everything that I enjoyed doing, I was able to do in one place, which was theater. And there was something about that that felt like I didn't know it existed, and I was like, this is amazing. And I wanted to get the best training I could before like launching out and finding my own artistry, which is why I studied for 7 years, and then I've been going strong since.
For me, I think that film is, art in general is all about putting yourself in the perspective of somebody else. But I think film is maybe the most direct way of inhabiting the perspective of another person. And I think that's kind of like the philosophical reason why I am a filmmaker. Why I want to be a filmmaker, why I am a filmmaker is it's just fun. It's the best way to spend a day. The worst day as a filmmaker is better than the best day of any other job that I've ever had.
Ooh, amen.
Okay. I happen to agree with you, but okay. Um, so I guess in some ways you already answered this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So how long have you each been doing this?
Well, actually, I went to an arts high school in New York, and I did went for a film program there, but I don't know if you would consider that actual,
Sure.
part of my career.
Uh,
But I guess I've been playing around with a camera since I was 14, so maybe, yeah, half my life I've been trying it out. Yeah, not always great, but yeah.
I think I've been doing on-screen acting for maybe when I first moved to LA, which was 2017. So I think
7 years.
7 years. Still 24. I thought it was 23.
Time flies.
It really does.
I've been writing like short stories and stuff my entire life, like since I was a kid. I always loved writing. And I took my first screenwriting class probably around the same time, Priscilla, that you took your first acting class, your first on-screen um, roles in LA. And then from there, I started directing because I knew the story, so I just wanted to do it.
So for each of you, what did your family and friends say when you said, I'm going to be an actor, I'm going to be a writer, I'm going to be a filmmaker? how did that conversation go? Was it yes, or was it, well, first you have to get your engineering degree, or first you have to get your law degree? Which way did it go first? How did it go?
A lot of my family members are very concerned because coming out of high school, I was a straight A student. They thought I had potential to do other things. And then I said, I want to be an artist. And they're like, how are you going to eat? But then somehow I'm still here. I'm still doing it. And yeah, and now I think they're starting to think, oh, hey, maybe she can actually do this.
For me, I think I was quite fortunate to have parents who were not, I guess, the typical Asian parents where they want you to be a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. But because I got introduced to acting through my dad, and my parents, I think they accepted quite early on that this would be a long run. Like, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take years of training. And, the results might not appear as quickly. But they've been really, really patient with the journey and really supportive in a lot of different ways. So, yeah, I'm actually very fortunate to have family and friends who support that.
That's good. And Yaari?
Well, I'll say that I'm in my 30s and my mom still sends me LinkedIn posts that are like, oh, Netflix needs a lawyer. Maybe you should go to law school and then you could still do the film thing. So they understand that I like film, but I don't know to what extent they understand
That you're not going to be a lawyer.
the creative the creative drive to like put words on a page or put images to the screen.
Okay, so in some ways, I guess all three of you are probably going to be able to answer this in the affirmative. I'm going to ask anyway. Do you have a support group, your village of fellow actors, fellow filmmakers, where you are? Do you have that, Grace? You want to talk to that first?
Yes, I think because I did go to school here at the MFA program, I think that's where I met most of my village. Like Yaari, for instance, I met him through the program, and we stay in touch even after we graduated, and we help each other out on projects, or we send people like, hey, you want to be part of this and that or that. And sometimes when we have scripts or something, I'll still email my friends, hey, you want to look at my script? You want to think, tell me what you think and stuff like that. And that's really helpful. And that's probably like the best thing that could come out of the program, despite not just the education, but this forever bond that we can have.
I think I had quite a good community in Korea and in America, but I recently moved back to the UK last year. And so I've never had any form of acting experience in the UK, even though I'm from here. So at the moment, no, I hardly know any actors. I know like a handful, let alone people that I can actually collaborate and we can produce work together. But yeah, I think it's slowly forming. I think it might take a couple of months and years, but I'm sure that it will. I'm sure I'll find it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things about like being a great collaborator, which both Grace and Pricilla are, is that people just kind of like want to be around and want to keep like doing things. I think Pricilla, like if you were in New York, I'd be hiring you like every day to do something different. And Grace, obviously you and I, keep in touch and, share work with each other and everything. Grace was actually the assistant director on my thesis film the year before. And just the best vibes. And we got all our shots and it was perfect. So I think like for me, like that village element is really important. Both from a logistical perspective, like, oh, I'm making something, you guys want to be a part of it. But also from that, like filmmaking as a collaborative medium, like everybody brings their own thing to the table. Like obviously I was a producer and I was the assistant director. I have a touch of creative input, but I don't have, you know, Grace is the director. She calls the shots. But I think our collaboration was that to create the kind of environment that was really conducive to everyone feeling like they had all of the space in the world to be creative, which I think is something that, unfortunately, if you don't have a village or if you're doing it for a reason that isn't a creative reason, is rare.
So Grace, what made you decide to make this movie? Like, what was the thought process that got you to this movie?
Yes, so obviously I was in an MFA program, so I had to do a short film as a thesis project. And when I was writing, I was trying to write something that can get me a good grade. And then that was not. And then I wrote it and I felt like, no, this is not what I want to do. I want to make something because, sorry if it's loud. I want to make something because it's honest and it's a story that I can tell from my perspective. So I start digging into things that I care about and things that I'm struggling with. And I come up with this story, with this character and this message that I want to share. And that's how it was born.
So who did you present to first, Yaari or Pricilla?
Yaari
Yaari.
first.
So Yaari, what did you think when she gave you that? This
I loved it. I think Grace and I share a sensibility of like both darkness and light coming through in contradictory ways, you know, like in the first draft, I think I was your TA for screenwriting your first semester, and then the second semester you sent me the draft of the script. And I think like I saw in the stuff that you were writing, even just like the exercises that you had to do, a inability to simultaneously hold like dark and gruesome things and humor and sensitivity. And I was,
fan.
yeah, I was a fan. You know, yeah.
Okay, Priscilla, so when you were presented the script, what were your thoughts?
I knew that Grace was writing something, because she mentioned that she was. Um, and I remember when I first read it, I was in Korea and I was at this point in my life where like I was kind of wondering, like I had just left America, I was living in Korea, it wasn't planned, I didn't know where I'd go next. And when I read the script, it felt like what I was going through, and I think I resonated a lot with the character. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I really want to do this. I need to do this. And yeah, I think also just because I've known that Grace writes really well. And she's kind of known for that even in our community as well, in Korea as well. So I loved the story. I thought that it was really clever, it was really smart, but it was also very vulnerable, and had a lot of mixed messages, which I always enjoy. That it's not too obvious, but you have like so much subtext to play with as an actor. So yeah, I loved it.
Okay, great. So the next question, I'm going to combine two questions into one. So what was the hardest part about making this movie, and what was the most fun about making this movie?
I kind of want to hop in with the most fun part, which
Sure,
is that we were all living together in the house for a week, and I mean, my job as an AD was easy because we could go over if we wanted to, because we had unlimited access to the location. So that made my life easy, but it was just so much fun. Like, you know, you work on a traditional film set, you get to know people by like day 3, day 4, and then if it's a short film, it's already over. But if you're like living with people, you're eating all your meals together, you're hanging out, you're watching TV together, you're goofing off together. Like it's that was just so much fun, and I really feel like I got close to everybody on the set. There were people I was already close to, but people like really people that I like connected with on a different level.
For me, the hardest part is actually trusting my instinct or trusting my voice. I don't know how many times I called Yaari and like I don't know this part. I don't get it. I don't, like I don't think it's good enough. Oh, it's not gonna be this. It's not gonna be that. And yeah, like so many wasted hours on just worrying about it not being good enough or it not getting the message right or it being should have been this or should have been that. And that was probably the hardest part, which actually only exists in my head because otherwise the production was so smooth, everything was fun, people were very nice. And that's probably the best part about it is like the people that we do it with really share the same love and vision for the story. So we were able to execute it, I think, yeah, in the best way possible.
I agree with both of Yaari and Grace. I think the fun part was it really was like living together in the same space. We're in the middle of nowhere. We were like in the middle of there was like the woods, and I would wake up and I see deers outside, like a family of deers. I think also just the scenery of it, like the cabin, the house we were in, it fits so well with the script and like where the character was located, obviously because we were shooting there too. But I think being able to sleep there actually like helped me as well to kind of settle down. Yeah, and I think the challenging thing, I agree with Grace. I think also because I have history with Grace, and so we've known each other for a couple of years. Um, I think there was a kind of, I want to do this the right way so Grace is happy. But it was like I had to trust my own artistry too, and trust my own intuitions, which was challenging, but also it was like, I think that's really what the power of collaboration. Like everyone has an input in it and no one's right in a way. It's just about us finding a middle ground. Yeah.
So finally, this is more to Grace and Yaari. You finish the film, you send it out into the world, and you're like, okay, that child's gone. I'm going to start worrying about the next one. Or do you sit there and look at forever going, someday I'm going to get the money and I'm going to make that again and do it right this time? Which type of filmmaker are you?
I think for me, I do both, where I'm like, I have like a document where I generate like just like ideas that come to me of like interesting things and stuff, and I'm like, I know there's something in me that needs to get this out, but filmmaking is patience, so maybe I don't have to like jump in right away. Also, I can be a bit scatterbrained, so I'm not gonna so I can't like sit and bang out a 15-page script in 3 days. My mind just doesn't work like that unless I have a solid deadline. And then I'll like write a bunch of ideas out, and then I'll be like, oh wait, okay, so this is actually kind of speaking to me right now. It's an idea I had 2 years ago, but I know what I was actually going for when I first had the thought. And then I kind of put all my eggs in that basket. And I know Grace is gonna have heard this before, but it's really because I TA'd the class where this was the point. But being generative with your ideas is really good. Not being precious about your ideas, but being generative about them. It doesn't matter like what's in your Google Docs or in your phone notes or in your private journal, that stuff is for the historians to look at one day, but you yourself or no one else is seeing that. So you can just write the stupidest ideas that come into your head, whatever, over and over again. And then maybe one day something will hit, and then it'll be like, oh, that's cool. Or having a germ of an idea like, oh, it would be interesting to play with a film that's done with a dolly track because I've never done a dolly track before. Well, what story would be best told with a dolly track? Okay, let me try to write something where there's an impactful scene on a dolly, just throwing everything at the wall, I guess, and seeing what sticks.
Obviously, when you're a filmmaker or you're an artist, you look at your work and you always find something wrong with it. You always find something that you could have done better. And yeah, I look at my film again when they're playing on the big screen, and I'm like, need to work on that sound. I could do something else. I could do something better with this, or I should have done this and that. And I guess I can spend so much time on that, or like you said, just use that as like an opportunity of learning and invest that into the next one, because I think it will never stop. I can keep going back to it and be like, I still can do something else. I still can do something else. But I'm gonna tell myself to no, resist that urge, deny it, and just put it towards the next one, and yeah, be better at the next one.
Okay. All right. This is also to everybody. We all know that in the indie film world, not talking about if you get a big production, but in the indie film world, we all know we're never going to buy mansions. We're not going to buy yachts. We're not going to buy private jets with the money you make in indie film world. So what does success look like in indie film world? Because it's obviously not dollars and cents. What does it sound like?
It's a very great question. It's the question I ask myself a lot too every day, why I do this or why I keep doing it. But I think for me, if I can just say an honest story that I feel and have other people say, hey, I feel the same way too, I think I would say, hey, I was pretty successful in that.
I think for me, like, if I look back on something that I've made or I was a part of, I was thinking about this actually with Grace's film too, that I was a part of it, and it reflected something maybe even inside of myself. I don't know how other people, I can't presume to know how other people feel, but if it activated something in myself that I didn't previously have the language for, then I feel as if it was a success. I think if there was language for it, it would be written.
I think success is actually different for every person. I think like for some people, honestly, just even being challenged, like getting outside of your comfort zone. Like, I think just even challenging yourself to write a story that isn't the most easiest to tell. And I really do want to give Grace as an example there. I think like this story wasn't something that was very easy to tell in the way that it was, and it was very vulnerable. But it also was a story that a lot of people, I felt like, were feeling when COVID was happening too. So in that sense, I think Grace taking that step to bring a story like that out at a time where people needed it, that in itself for me is like, that's very successful. Yeah.
So somebody comes along and goes, hi, Aunt Grace, Aunt Pricilla, Uncle Yaari, I'm going to be a filmmaker just like you. What would you say? How would that conversation go?
I would say be prepared to fight for everything. Every dollar, every choice. Be prepared to fight for it and be prepared to lose most of those fights. That's the one thing. And the second thing I would say is filmmaking is not about being a filmmaker yourself, but it's about the community of people that you're around, because a film doesn't get made by one person. I'm sure I know there are films that have been made by one person, but really it doesn't get made by one person. It gets made by every single person who brings something to the set. That filmmaking is a form of labor, not just creative and emotional labor, but literal physical labor, and that labor is always something that needs to be respected and valued, even if you can't value it with, a big fat paycheck at the end of the day. There's always other ways to value the people that you work with.
I would tell that person to take heart and have a strong sense of self or your voice, because it's you put your heart out there, and then there will be a million rejections, or like a million people say it's not good, or you're not gonna get into this festival. And don't take that as a rejection to you, because if you know who you are and you know your voice and you know your story, it's not a rejection to you. It's just part of the journey, but your voice, your story will continue.
If someone asked me that, I think I would ask them what stories they want to tell. Because I think with filmmaking, I think it's really important to really want to tell a story, rather than just making a film out of anything. And so I feel like that's kind of, yeah, I would really throw that question back at them and be like, well, what stories are you passionate about? Yeah, that's all.
That was my last question. Thank you very much for joining us. And the film is called Singing in a Lifeboat, and it's going to show at the New York State Independent Film Festival